Now, for our fifth class, we're going to look at card play techniques. We're going to look at the ways of making extra tricks that don't necessarily involve a trump suit. Now, we've got here two hands laid out, partners, and we're going to go through the bidding first and then look at the play. Now, Guy is to start, and Guy has a balanced hand, but because he has more than 12 to 14 points, he opens one of his longest suit, one heart. And Caroline, his partner, bidding a suit to a suit, longest suit at lowest level, responds two clubs. Guy now completes the description of his balanced hand. He rebids no trumps at the lowest level over his partner's bid to show a balanced hand with 15 or 16 points. And then Caroline, ample strength to make it up to 25, raises to 3 no trumps. So now that's the final contract, and by dint of bidding no trumps first, it's Claire to lead the first card, and Claire's lead is a small spade. Now, down comes Caroline's dummy, and at this point in the proceedings, Guy, very polite man of course, says, "Thank you, partner." And if you're playing bridge on the internet, you put into your computer TYP. And although it's not mandatory in quite the same way, Caroline says, "Good luck, partner." And into the computer would go GLP, not gulp, but GLP. Good. And now what Guy as declarer does is he counts up his top tricks, just the ones he can make before he loses the lead, and he looks at each suit together. And so how many top tricks does Guy have on this deal? Well, he's got 4 heart tricks, ace, king, queen and jack, provided he plays one of his honours on each trick. 3 spade tricks. Unfortunately, he's only got 3 cards in each hand, and having to follow suit, that means he'll only be able to take 3 tricks. He doesn't have any top tricks in diamonds because he's going to have to lose the lead first, and he doesn't have any top tricks in clubs for the same reason. And that's vital that you do that when you are planning before you start the play of the hand, that you count up your top tricks. It's only by counting up your top tricks, the ones that you can make before you lose the lead, that you know how many extra tricks you need to fulfill your contract. Good. So now Guy, 4 heart tricks, 3 spade tricks, that's it, 7 top tricks. His goal is 9 because he's in 3 no trumps, so he's looking for 2 extra tricks. And now I want us to think about the possible strategies of trying to make 9 tricks. I often liken the play of a bridge hand to a race between a tortoise and a hare. Now the hare loves to take tricks quickly. So the hare would say, OK, I've got 3 top tricks in spades and play them out immediately, and 4 top tricks in hearts and play them out immediately. And so the hare would have his 7 top tricks stacked in front of him right away, quick as a flash. And then he'd look around for the extra 2. But the hare's not such a good bridge player because what happens when the hare loses the lead is that he's lost control. All his spades and his hearts have gone, and when the opponents win the lead with, say, some ace in some minor, they can cash their little cards in spades and in hearts, the ones that they've got left over. The tortoise, on the other hand, says, OK, I know I've got these 7 top tricks, but they're not running away. I must focus all my early attentions on scoring those 2 extra tricks. And tortoises are good bridge players. Come with me. So, here we are. Before playing from the dummy, first of all, count up the top tricks, the ones that you can make before losing the lead. But don't actually play them out. Instead, work out how many extra tricks you need for your contract. and go for those extras immediately. Play like a tortoise and not like a hare. Good. Now let's come back and have a look at the strategy that we're going to need to use here. We've got 2 extra tricks to win, and because we are tortoises, we're going to go for those 2 immediately. Now, there's actually a surefire way to make those 2 extra tricks, and it's in diamonds. Not the longer clubs, but the diamonds. Because what we can do is we can force out their ace of diamonds and so promote 2 of our diamond honours. Let's see how this is going to work. All right, so the first trick, doesn't really matter where he wins the trick, but let's say that dummy plays low and guy wins with his jack. And now, at the second trick, the queen of diamonds. Actually, he could have led low to the jack or to the king, but the queen is an equally good play. The queen of diamonds is what guy plays, and let's just have a little think as to what might happen. Now, one possibility is that the opponents don't win, duck the queen of diamonds. But that's fine, because then the queen of diamonds becomes an extra trick, and he can just then lead a second diamond to the jack or king and use one of those jack or king to flush out their ace, and the other one to be the second extra trick in diamonds. Let's say, though, that the defenders take the queen of diamonds with the ace. And let's say, without anything dynamic for them to do, I mean, they could play out their ace and king of clubs, but that would really just be helping you. Let's say that they press on with another spade. So guy wins with the queen in the dummy, and he has now promoted 2 extra tricks in diamonds. And therefore, rather than having 7 top tricks, he now has 9. It looks plain sailing, but there is one hidden trap. He did count correctly 4 top tricks in hearts, but he does have to play them out in the right order. And there is a pitfall here. Let's say, for example, that he plays the 3 of hearts to his ace, and then the 4 of hearts back to dummy's king. He's now stuck in the wrong hand and unable to get back to his hand to play the queen and the jack. I'm sure we've all been in that situation where we've been severed from what is rightfully ours. And I'd like to teach you now the unblocking rule, which applies when you have sequential high cards between the 2 hands, and it tells you which order to play those high cards. And the rule is as follows. If you're leading from the shorter hand, lead the highest card. If you're leading from the hand with the longer length, lead the lowest card. Good. And that might come naturally to you, but don't worry if it doesn't. Just think lowest, longest, LL, a little alliteration for you. Come and watch this. Here we are, ace, queen, jack 2 facing king 3. This is the correct order to play your high cards. King first, high from the short, followed by the 3 to the jack, and now you're in the right hand to play out your 2 remaining top cards. Good. And now let's have a look at another example. Here we are, starting out here with the 3 to the king, or the king to the 3, depending on which hand you're in, but the king is the highest card from the shorter length. And on the second round of the suit, continuing the motto, the jack to the 4, high from the short. And now on the third round, the 2 to the queen, and then we're in the right hand to play out the ace. Good. Now there are 3 basic methods of making extra tricks without needing a trump suit. And the first one, as illustrated by Guy's technique on this hand, is extra tricks by force. You see, what Guy has done is he has forced out the ace of diamonds, flushed it out, thereby promoting his lower diamonds. Now, let's see what Guy did. He led the queen and he forced out their ace, thereby promoting his king and his jack. 2 winners by virtue of forcing out their ace, and that's the first of the 3 basic methods of making extra tricks without necessarily needing a trump suit. Now I'm going to go back to the table to illustrate the second of those 3 methods. Now here we have a suit, and what we would like to do is to get rid of all the opponent's cards in this suit so that we can make tricks with our remaining small cards, winners by virtue of their length. Now, what's going to be all important here is the split of the missing cards. There are 5 missing cards, and normally they will split 3-2. So what we would do is we would play out the ace, and assuming that they both followed, there would now be 3 left out. We would then lead the king, and assuming they both followed again, there would be 1 left out. We would then get rid of it, losing the lead, but you have to lose to win in bridge, and we would now have 2 length winners. Good. Now, have a look at this. Second basic method of making extra tricks without needing trumps, length. And here's an example. Here we are. Ace, king, queen, we definitely win, but it's whether or not we can make the 3 and the 2. And you see that both the opponents follow a second time, and we lead the queen next, and we're hoping that they'll both follow a third time. They do. A 3-3 split. And now the 3 and the 2 very happily are length winners. Good. Now, watch this. This time you'll notice a slight difference. Not that you'll be aware of it. If you were declaring the hand, you wouldn't know at this point how many cards your opponents had. But we can see the split slightly different. Ace, low, low, low. King, low, low, low. So far, so good. But when we lead the queen, one of our opponents follows and the other one discards, revealing a 4-2 split. But all is not lost. We've got to lose to win in bridge, and we give them the 4th round of the suit, and provided we can get back to our hand, then the 3 is at least 1 extra length winner. So the split of the opposing cards was crucial there.
Andrew, with 6 missing cards, which is the more likely split?
Very, very good question. Now, we've seen 2 possibilities there, one in which each opponent held 3 cards, and the other one where one opponent held 4 and the other opponent held 2. Which is more likely? We would like the 3-3 split to be more likely, making our lives much easier. But the reality of the situation is that the 4-2 split is more likely than the 3-3 split. The reason why is because if you talk about a 4-2 split, you're actually talking about 2 different possibilities. One opponent with 4 and the other with 2, or the first opponent with 2 and the other opponent with 4, whereas a 3-3 split can only happen in one way, each opponent with 3 cards. Very nice question, Cheryl. Now, let's move on to the third of the 3 basic methods of making extra tricks. Doesn't necessarily need a trump suit. We have here a layout on the table, and what we're trying to do is to promote the king. We can't always do it, but how can we give ourselves the best chance? Well, leading the king itself won't do any good. Whichever opponent holds the ace will take the king with their ace. Equally, leading the card that goes with the king, here the 3, that won't be any good either, because the opponents will just win the trick with a middling card, keeping their ace back to catch the king. So what you have to do is you have to lead from the opposite hand to that king. So you lead the 2 and wait and see what the second player plays. If the second player plays the ace, that's very good news for you, because now you can play your 3 and the king will be promoted. Let's say the second player plays a low card. What you must do is play your king. And if the second player held the ace, they probably wouldn't play it if they held it. If they held the ace, then the king would be promoted into a trick. So let's have a look again. We lead a low card from the opposite hand to the honour that we're trying to promote. Second player plays low, and we play the honour. And if the higher honour that we were missing, the ace here, was in the hand playing second, then the king will be promoted. If, on the other hand, the fourth player, the player sitting over the king, held the ace, then the king would lose to the ace. So the king is a winner by virtue of position. It's a finesse. A finesse is a mysterious sounding word for a straight technique. And the chances of a finesse succeeding are 50-50, assuming you don't know where their missing higher card is. Now, the name does sound mysterious, but the secret to finessing is always the same. You lead from the opposite card, the opposite hand, to the card that you're trying to promote. What I want us to do now is I want us to look at some other finessing situations. Here we are. Now, it doesn't matter which is the dummy and which is your hand. Doesn't matter whether the opponents can see what's going on. Essentially, it's all preordained. It all depends on where their missing higher card lies. So here, we're trying to promote the queen. So we must lead from the opposite hand to the queen. So there we lead low. Assuming the second player plays low, we must play the card we're trying to promote. Fingers firmly crossed, and if it was Cheryl who held the king, then the queen would be promoted into a trick. If Claire, on the other hand, held the king, then the queen would lose to the king. It's a 50-50 gamble, like the tossing of a coin. Let's have a look at another situation. So first of all, we have to ask ourselves which card we're trying to promote. And the answer here is the queen. So what we must do is lead from the opposite hand to that queen. So here we lead a low card, and we are hoping that the player playing second, that's Claire, holds the king. And if she does, then there's nothing she can do to prevent the queen from being promoted. If she plays her king, then we play low and the queen will win next time. But if she plays low, then when we play the queen, it will win the trick.
Andrew, would it ever improve your chances to play the ace first?
Play the ace first before leading to the queen. What a good question. Well, assuming that you don't mind relinquishing the controlling card in the suit, which leading the ace does, then there is a small technical advantage that Guy's referring to. Because let's say that the suit is divided like this, with the king being singleton. If you failed to cash the ace first and instead led a low one to the queen, then Cheryl would make her singleton king. But if you took that precaution of leading the ace first, then the king would fall, and you could also then make the queen. It's a small extra percentage, but these things can make the difference between success and failure. So thank you very much for that question. Now let's have a look at another finessing situation. A finesse, what is it? It's an attempt to win a trick with a card when the opponents hold a higher card in that same suit. And the technique is always the same. You work out the card you're trying to promote and you lead from the opposite hand to that card. Have a look at this layout. Now, what card are we trying to promote here? We're trying to promote the Jack. So we must lead from the opposite hand to the Jack. Although a very common mistake is to try to promote the Jack by actually leading it. This can't work at all because whichever opponent holds the Queen will just cover the Jack with the Queen. So instead we lead the 2 and we hope that the second player holds the Queen. And if Claire does hold the Queen, then if she plays the Queen we play, the 3 and the Jack is promoted. And if she plays low, then the Jack will win the first round of the suit. So that's the finesse. And what I want us to do now is I want us to come over and have a look at some animations. Can we promote the king? Now, we don't know where the missing ace is, but we lead from the opposite hand, and there we are, we're lucky. Because the ace was in the second player's hand, we were successful. Now, try again. Low, low, king, fingers crossed, but this time the ace was in the fourth player's hand, and the finesse failed. The 50-50 gamble failed. And that's the third basic method of making extra tricks that doesn't necessarily need a trump suit. Now, just to finish this class, we're going to look at a complete deal, bidding and play, using the techniques that we've been discovering together. So, Guy dealt the cards, and Guy is opening the bidding 1 no trump. Caroline, with a balanced hand and invitational to game values, bids 2 no trumps. We looked at this hand in our last class, the bidding, so we won't dwell too long on the bidding. Cheryl passes. Guy, with a maximum hand, bids 3 no trumps. So it's Claire to lead, and Claire leads from her longest suit. We'll be looking at leads and defensive strategy later in our DVD, and Guy has now to play the hand. The first thing he does is he counts up his top tricks. 2 in hearts, ace king, 2 in spades, ace king, the ace of diamonds and the ace of clubs. Those are the ones that he can make before he loses the lead. But he's not going to play them out. He is going to devote all his early energies on creating 3 extra tricks. And the natural place to look here is Dummy's fine 5-card diamond suit. Now, Guy is going to try to promote the Jack and the Queen of diamonds via finesses, so he wants to lead diamonds from the opposite hand to those cards. So where is he going to win the first trick? He's going to win it in his hand, but notice that he's planned his strategy before he plays from the dummy. So he now knows where he wants to win this first trick. So, dummy plays low, Cheryl's playing the Jack, Guy wins with the King, and then immediately working on diamonds, Guy leads the 2 of diamonds and plays Dummy's Jack. Fingers crossed, and the finesse is successful. Looks like Claire has the King. Now, Guy's in the wrong hand to continue leading diamonds because he needs to repeat the finesse. He needs to try to promote the Queen. So therefore he's got to come back to his hand. And he's going to do that in either hearts or clubs. The preferable option is hearts because he's got the ace and the king of hearts. So at trick 3, he leads the 6 of hearts from the dummy. Cheryl plays low, and he could theoretically win with either the ace or the king. If you're a little bit worried about your bridge memory, then a tip here would be to win it with the king, because you'll know the ace is high later on. So Guy is not worried too much about his bridge memory, but to illustrate the point, he's going to win it with the king and takes the trick, follows with the 5 of diamonds, and he plays the queen. Successful finesse. Good. And he's now promoted both the jack and the queen of diamonds. So his 6 top tricks have become 8. Where's he going to look for his 9th trick from? Well, now we're moving from position to length. The opponent started with 6 diamonds, and they've each followed twice. So there are now just 2 diamonds left out. And if he's lucky, they'll each have 1 remaining. So Guy now follows with the ace of diamonds from the dummy. But disappointingly, Cheryl can't follow suit, throws away a low heart. Guy throws away a low, doesn't matter, club. And Claire follows suit. The king is still out. Does that mean that Guy should abandon diamonds? No. You've got to lose to win in bridge, and so Guy leads a 4th round of diamonds and gives the trick to Claire's king. Good. And now Claire's on play, and there's no winning option, so 3 of clubs. Dummy plays low. Cheryl's queen is taken by Guy's ace. Now, Guy has already won 6 tricks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got the ace of hearts, which is going to be his 7th trick. He's got the ace of spades, which is going to be his 8th trick. But his 9th trick, the all-important length winner, is his established 5th diamond. So he now leads over to the ace of spades. With a flourish, cashes the 4 of diamonds. Always a pleasure to make a trick with a 4. And his 9th trick is taken with the ace of hearts. An excellent display. Good. Well, let's finish our class by focusing on 3 important issues in the card play technique department. If you remember just 3 things. First of all, before you play from the dummy, count your top tricks and go for your extra tricks before cashing those top tricks. In other words, play like a tortoise and not like a hare. Do you remember the unblocking rule? If you're leading from the hand with the shorter length, lead the highest card. If you're leading from the hand with the longer length, lead the lowest card. And thirdly, the 3 basic methods of making extra tricks that do not require a trump suit. Force, flushing out an opposing higher card. Length, exhausting the opponents of all their cards in the suit and making your little cards left over. And position, the finesse. F, force, L, length, and P, position. Don't flap, think F, L, and P. Well, I hope you enjoyed our class on card play technique. Now, let's have a look a little bit further at this hand.